everybody. How's everybody doing? Today's date is August 30th, 2025. Thank you and welcome for clicking play. Thank you. Think I mixed up those words, but I think all of you guys kind of know what I meant. Thank you for clicking play. Hopefully this will be a good episode for you guys to chime in on. Thank you. Again, I cannot be saying thank you enough for clicking play and making this channel grow, okay? So with that being said, I think a lot of you, if you've heard the podcast already, you kind of get the gist of what the podcast is about. So we're going to be discussing a lot of various things today. I do want to chime in a little bit into folklore just to kind of go off the beaten path and kind of talk about other items as well. And I'll start by saying that my week so far was great. Today is the long weekend, so today is a day of rest for me. Had to work a little bit earlier today, get my hands dirty and do some irrigation work. And that in itself was kind of challenging because in Northern California, where I'm at anyway, it is hot. It is uncomfortably hot. So, I mean, shit, AC's blasting all day and drinking a lot of water. Hopefully you guys are hydrating quite a bit because it is hot. And if you are in an area where there's a lot of rain and there's cold, shit, hopefully you're staying dry. But with this weather being the way it is, this summer I've noticed has been kind of weird. Normally you see like the transitions of spring and the summer and the fall and the winter, and then it kind of goes and you have your 4 seasons. This year, shit, dude, is it me or it's basically either hot, cold, rain, or none at all? In Northern California in particular, man, I mean, I'm telling you, we went from winter to summer. The winter to summer and hardly any fucking rain. And we're literally like just watching shit like, damn, man, even the plants are like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, they don't know what to do. I mean, the poor trees, God forbid, they say a lot about El Nino or La Nina and all that stuff, man. I really don't know how I feel about that. It is what it is. But I really don't know what the current situation is with the weather. I don't know about global warming. I mean, shit, we can go and talk topics about that and whether it's a fiction of our imagination, if there's a conspiracy, if there's DARPA involved and other shenanigans. But apart from that, my week's been great. Hopefully your guys' weekends is going great as well. Hopefully you are out of town and listening to this podcast on the road with your headphones on. And maybe you're driving, you're a passenger, everybody else is passed out, or you just simply have me listening, talking. So thank you. I appreciate you very much. So with that being said, I kind of want to touch on a little bit of something that's gone on the past couple of days. If you guys follow the NFL, Michael Parsons got traded, y'all, to the Green Bay effing Packers. I mean, that team was already dangerous as it was, and now you're going to add Michael Parsons on the defense. You already had Jordan Love, even though he's injury prone. That guy will give you a solid 8 weeks, maybe, if that. But phenomenal trade. Jerry Jones, as usual, doing what Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys do, which is nobody knows what the hell they do. They just do what they do, and they're still considered America's team, which is a title that, for the life of me, I still don't even know how or why they still have that title. Maybe it's the $5 billion stadium that they own, right? Or maybe the fact that Jerry Jones, like, literally has a quadrillion amounts of money. Who knows? But unfortunately, my San Francisco 49ers are not making the media for good reasons, I guess you could say. I mean, between the numerous amounts of injuries that we have, which I don't even know who the hell our sports medicine guy is that does all the training, that does all the stretches. But shit, it's like every single freaking year that we've had Kyle Shanahan as our head coach, there has been numerous amounts of injuries, nonstop. And you got Christian McCaffrey, who is injury prone, phenomenal player. But dude, Kyle just runs him up the gut until he breaks his wheels off, man. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And then it's next man up mentality. You had Dre Greenlaw, which, by the way, unfortunately we lost him, but then it turns out he got injured now with the team he went to. I mean, it sucks. I mean, we're dropping like flies. We lost Brandon Ayuk still. Then we lost a rookie, Sam Watkins, to another injury. There's just injuries all over the place. The freaking 49ers are just a team of injuries, and it's frustrating as hell as a sports fan because you know what they have on paper, but unfortunately you're never really able to see it out on the field because God forbid, dude, everybody's always going to be injured at some point, and it sucks. Anyway, so what have I seen this week as far as video wise that I want to share with y'all? Man, there's so much. As some of you know, some of the things that I speak on in this channel are basically having to do with parenting and how to properly speak with your kids and how to address certain items with them and make it work. And again, being a parent myself, it is a little bit alarming and frustrating to continue seeing the videos that I do. And this episode, I do like to share on my opinion of a few videos that I saw. One of them really just kind of stands out more than the others, but it kind of falls into the norm. It falls into the same stuff that I spoke about in the previous episodes. And I don't want to continue being that guy that just continues just kind of regurgitating stuff. So the video basically that I saw was very simple. It was basically a domestic violence issue. And it was between two parties. It was between a man and a woman. They were arguing. And then he walks away, and then he starts fighting with someone else, another male gentleman. And then you see him pan off camera, and he starts running towards his car, who's parked in the middle of the street. And you see what looks to be either his ex-girlfriend or his baby mama, whatever the circumstances that might be. And she has a knife in her hand, and I'm thinking, damn, it's going to be one of these episodes, one of these videos. No. So the lady immediately runs to the car, and she starts stabbing his tires immediately, right? And as she's stabbing his tires, he gets in his vehicle, and you think he's going to storm off and drive away. No, my dude got in his car, did a full U-turn with the intent to run her over. And he slammed her against a wrought iron fence. The fence gave way, thank goodness. The lady went one way, the car went the other. He backed out. Everybody's losing it. And then he storms off and storms away. And what got me about the video was, number one, I mean, just the whole scenario in itself. I mean, how angry do you gotta be, and how zero disregard for absolute anything or anyone that you literally get in a vehicle with the sole intent to try to run somebody over. I mean, do you know what it takes for you to be mentally at that point checked out that you literally want to cause that much harm to another human being? Whether it's your baby mama, ex-girlfriend, whatever the circumstances, do you know how you got to be wired for you to think that way? And then the lady herself, she grabs a knife and literally is walking to the car with the sole intention to cause destruction. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but there's got to be a point in which you got to question yourself emotionally. Where are you? Because if you are doing all these things, gosh forbid, what the hell else you're doing that you're not being filmed on, that you are capable of. But here's what got me. As she's walking away, you see a small child, probably the age of 7 or 8. 2 kids that are watching this. They're watching their parent act a fool. They're watching whoever that person is or relation that is to them. They're watching this video. And this becomes normal. I mean, it goes back to the same topic that I continue saying and telling everybody, man, we got to be mindful of who the hell our audience is. And our audience is the children that we are with. I see so many videos to the point where it's kind of boring to even talk about it, but there's always some drama, some bullshit or something happening, people acting a fool, and then there's a kid that's watching this. And it's always, for me, it's always alarming because I'm thinking about, damn, that kid is going to do the same thing that his mama did and that his daddy did, and it's going to be a full circle. And it's a cycle, a habitual cycle that just won't stop. So I turn it off, and I'm just like, you know what, this is fucking stupid. I mean, I mean, how often are we going to see these videos for us to go ahead and get mad about, right? So as I was agitated about that, then um I saw the news that I know some of you probably heard nationally, and it's very sad and very tragic with what happened at the church and that gentleman who was not mentally well, and he basically went into the church, shot up some people, including killing 2 children. And as I read more into the article about the shooter, I mean, I'm at a loss for words sometimes of how our system works operationally, how we are not doing a very good job of cross-referencing who should and who shouldn't have access to guns, right? And again, I'm not a big gun control guy. Hey, if you feel and you're entitled to own a gun and you can manage it well and you need it for protection and you are the second, the Second Amendment person, right to bear arms. Hey, I'm not nobody to tell you what you should and you shouldn't do, whether you should have guns or no guns in your house and how you run your household. That is not what this podcast is. I am not wanting to speak on that particular subject because everybody's got their own point of view, their own perception of why they need them. There's some people that are anti-guns because they feel that it just entices violence. Other people feel the other way around. They feel that they need those guns to protect themselves and the well-being of their family. And each side has a point. But with everybody screaming and yelling from both sides of scenarios, from both sides of the argument, we tend to always overlook and forget that there is dumbass people in the middle that are neither here or here. They're just in the middle doing their own shit. And because one side wants gun access, the other one does not, we cannot come up with a compromise or a solution that's going to benefit both. Checks and balances. And because of that reason, you have people like the gentleman that just recently did these heinous acts, because that's what they are. You gave him access. There is a lot of individuals just like this man who have access to guns, who get influenced because of the stuff that they see on social media, who feel inclined to want to do something and are so bottled up with frustration that they feel that they need to act out in the most outrageous of ways to either call attention to their cause or simply prove a point. But I am sick and tired of innocent people always being caught up in the middle. And it's always fucking kids, dude. It's always the innocent. It's never like, oh, I'm gonna go shoot up a prison where you have criminals and whatever the hell else is there. Or I'm gonna go shoot up this place where there's nothing but pedophiles. You know what I mean? It's always a church. It's either a church. If it's not a church, it's a school. I mean, Sandy Hook Elementary. And I'm just baffled. In my mind, I'm just flabbergasted how these people are mentally unwell yet have access to this shit. How come they have not come up with a way to check a person's mental state before you sign off and you give them a damn gun? How can they have access to guns and bullets and countless amounts of ammo without checking them up, man? Like, hey, do you really need 47 freaking boxes? Do you really need 37 clips of 50 round mags? The fuck are you going to do? Are you going to war? I mean, by the looks of the gentleman, he didn't look like a collector. But you see my point? And I see that on social media, man. And I'm just like, dude, I mean, it just continues to happen each and every single day. And the media is just a gift that keeps on giving, man. I mean, that's what it is. And of course, people on one side, oh, well, he was mentally unwell. No, he was not mentally unwell. He was a murderer. There is no amount of trauma and bullshit that you have gone through that is going to justify you taking another life to prove your point. And then to top it off, the gentleman unalives himself with a self-inflicted wound. So you telling me that you went to this place to cause damage and harm to other individuals, to other human beings. You killed children. You killed innocent children, and then you unalive yourself to prove a point. What point are you proving? I think the second that you take somebody's life, I think your point at that moment is removed. You lost any sort of credibility. You lost any sort of attention to what the hell you're trying to say. It's just stupid. Oh, I suffer from CTE, so therefore I'm going to go into this public place and murder a bunch of people to prove a point that I'm sad. And I want everybody to feel as sad as I do. You know how selfish that sounds? And I don't condone self-inflicted violence, because depression is a real devil and it's a damn demon. And if you don't battle it well, and if you don't do well with it, you will do very bad things with it. You will cope however it is you're going to cope, and you will go off your beaten path. But that's you who's being impacted. That is you who's being affected. But the second that I impose my depression, my bad things, my bad thoughts onto another human being by using a weapon and taking them out and taking their life, I'm sorry, but that is the most selfish thing that you can possibly do, rather than actually asking for help. And it doesn't appear that gentleman had any interest in any, and nobody paid any attention to him. I'm sorry, y'all, but if my son was interested in guns and had all this other shit that he was buying on his own, I would question it. I'd be like, son, what the hell are you doing with so much shit? And this is why I tell y'all, man, it's important to talk to your kids each and every single day where they are mentally. Because you would be surprised when you start talking to them, they're going to start talking back to you and tell you what's going on. But I mean, those are a few topics that I definitely were just fresh to my mind. And I'm just like, damn, the whole gun thing is always like, it's a slippery slope. You can say one thing and say the other, and you're basically, nobody's going to agree with you. And that's the overall point. And nobody will do a damn thing about gun control, because nobody can seem to come up with a compromise or a solution. Now, whether it's because people have way too many investments in the NRA or not, who knows? It's above my pay grade. I am not in any way, shape, or form capable or have the clout enough for me to even speak on something like that, because everybody is going to do what they're going to do. So, but with that being said, I think 20 minutes of me ranting and raving, I think that's more than enough to you kind of get my gist of the week. But I would like to extend this invitation. And it's going to be story time. So, with that being said, sit back, relax, turn up your headphones, because I will do my best to tell you a story. Let me take my cup of coffee real quick before we dive into this. So, let's go. The legend goes that there once was a peasant woman in a village in either Central America or in Mexico. And she was born in a very poor village, in a poor household, and she barely had any means to eat. And so she would go to the markets each and every single day with whatever groceries she could make food from, and she would sell the food for a little bit of change for her and her family. During one of these trips, she met this gentleman that appeared to be from very high class. And the gentleman extended his hand and shook her hand, and he was amazed of how beautiful she was. A natural beauty. No makeup because she couldn't afford it, but her simple skin tone and facial structure and everything, he thought she was the most beautiful thing on the planet. And so he would come and visit this particular vendor day in and day out, until gradually they both began to start a romantic relationship. They would meet in secret because obviously him being from high class, it was frowned upon if you slept with or you dated anybody beneath you. And so they had a relationship in secret. And he continued to praise her. He continued to take care of her in any way that he could. Gave her a little bit of money, as much as he could, without being noticeably over the top and where people would call into question, especially his family. And so the relationship blossomed to the point where they had 2 children in secret. And the woman carried the burden. She gave birth to both kids. And at some point, she wanted to have more. Meaning, she wanted to have more in the relationship and a much different title than just being his secret lover, who he had 2 kids with. So the gentleman and her decided to marry in secret, with the promise that one day he would tell his family and he would introduce her as his equal to his family. And whether they liked it or not, she was going to be a part of this family and a part of theirs, whether they liked it or not. And so with that promise, the woman prayed and prayed and prayed and was full of joy, hoping for the best. Unfortunately, with time, the gentleman came over less and less and less, where he would come over every single day to see the kids and see her. The visits lessened little by little, where it was one day yes, one day no, one day yes, one day no, until it was every other week. She became alarmed and became suspicious of his actions. So she would go to the farmers markets and the village and ask other vendors if they had seen him. And they all said that they had, and that he was healthy. And that to her was complete relief, because she thought at that moment in time that maybe he was ill, maybe he had come down with something, and she couldn't just go to the hacienda where he lived and proclaim her love for him, because she would be banished and she would be arrested and her kids would be taken away. So every 2 weeks became 3 weeks, and then finally she saw him again, and she asked him, what's going on? And he said, oh, you know what, we got family that came over from Spain, from Europe, and right now we are kind of busy taking them out, and I've been basically held responsible to cater to them and their needs. And because she was so in love with him, she believed him. And she left it at that. Until one day, she hadn't seen him in over a month, and she became even more worried. So she went to the vendors and asked the same questions that she would normally ask, until finally one vendor in particular told her something that really sparked her interest, that they had seen him. But not only that had they seen him, but they had seen him with someone else in his arms, somebody of very, very high class, just like him. Now again, the villagers and everybody from the town did not know that they were secretly married, and did not know that the 2 children that she had were his. If anything, the villagers thought she was just a very promiscuous woman who fell in with the wrong crowd and unfortunately had relations before she was married with someone, and she got pregnant and had children, which was fairly common in the villagers for women like that to be taken advantage of. Sad and tragic, but she thought that's what it was, or they thought that's what it was. So after she caught wind of this, she decided one night to put her kids to bed early, and she decided to take the long walk to the hacienda where the gentleman lived. And on that cold night, she contemplated and wondered what she had done wrong, and just made all the excuses in the world for him and why he had failed to show up for months at a time now. So her plan was to basically confront him in secret, but not create a big spectacle. She just wanted no answers. So as she approaches the hacienda, she notices that there's a lot of people. There's a large crowd. A very big party is happening. So she finds the nearest servant and asks to be let in. The servant declines and says, "No, I don't want to get in trouble." But then again, they recognized her from the village, so they gave her a chance. So they gave her some spare clothes and dressed her up as a maid, and that she was going to be helping the party in the event that was being catered. So as she walks all over the hacienda, she's completely amazed and in total wonder as to how beautiful the hacienda is, how wonderful it is. So in her mind, she starts thinking that, man, you know what? Once all this becomes official, this is going to be all mine. The kids are going to grow up in a beautiful household with great maids. I'm going to be nice to them. They're going to be nice to me, and we're all going to live very, very happy. Unfortunately, that was not the case. As she wandered through the hacienda, there was loud music and live band playing. And so she made her way to the area where apparently it was a big open area where it was a big, huge backyard. And everybody from high class was there. Everybody was sitting down, enjoying their drinks. And then finally, the person that appeared to be her husband's father asked for a toast for everyone, and everyone paused and stopped and put their drinks down, and they began to listen to the speech that the gentleman was about to bring in. And she was surprised because she had never seen the man, but he was very, very fancy as well, just like her husband. So again, her mind, she started thinking about, man, I want to be a part of this family, completely excited. And she just couldn't wait to see her husband, but she couldn't find him. Until finally her husband walks out with the woman that the villagers had mentioned. And she walks alongside with him, arms hand in hand. As she sees this, her heart begins to break and shatter as the announcement goes out that he was getting married to a woman from Europe who was just as wealthy as he was. He looked so happy and at peace. As both couples decided to hug, they kissed. The wife began to cry and weep. And everybody looked at her, especially the servants, and said, "Hey, you need to leave. If you're not going to be able to take this, you're going to get us in trouble." So she left. And she ran back home as fast as she could, with tears all over her eyes, completely heartbroken and destroyed. Her world had fallen apart. She had 2 kids with this man, and he was going to get married to somebody else. she was going to be alone. As she finally made it home, she crawled into bed with her 2 sons, and she wept, and wept all night. The following day, she did not have the energy to eat breakfast or anything, and her children were worried. And they would ask her, "Hey, do you want us to make you some breakfast? Do you want some food? Do you want some medicine?" But because she was so heartbroken, she declined every single offer. And this went on for weeks, to the point where she didn't want to talk. And then eventually that tears dried up, and that sadness turned to hate. Absolute hate. She couldn't believe that she was so stupid and dumb to have fallen for that man's word, her husband's lies, to the point where she gave the man 2 children. And now he was not even going to be around for them. So, one of those days, she had her sons get dressed in their best clothes, and she was going to go confront her husband with her children. And as she walked up to the hacienda, she saw a carriage come bound from the direction of the hacienda, and it was her husband with his future wife. The gentleman pauses, looks at her, and says, "Hi, Maria." She was so dumbstruck. She was not prepared to see him. She had no words, as she was mute at that point. She didn't know what to say. He did not introduce her to his fiancée or nothing. He just looked at his sons and said, "Good seeing you two," gave them a little bit of money, and went on about his day. Both children were confused because they thought that their dad was either being a practical jokester or he was just being very dismissive. But they were very strangely sad about it. But their mom, Maria, was even worse. She was infuriated. So on the way back, she decided to take the long way back home because she was contemplating what she was going to do. And as she walked and walked and walked with the children began to get worried because they had been walking for hours now. And instead, they keep on walking back and forth down this river, unbeknownst to them what was going to take place. As the children began to get tired, they laid down and sat next to the biggest tree they could find next to the river. And they laid down to sleep. As they slept, she cried because of what she was going to do next. She found blankets that she had in her purse, and she suffocated them one by one, and dragged them and threw them in the river, drowning them one by one. Full of rage and full of hate, because all she could see was punishing her husband for what he had done. So he was going to take away 2 things that reminded her of him. When the reality finally hit and the rage finally left her heart, she looked at both her children who had passed, and she wept even more uncontrollably because she could not believe what she had done. She cried and cried all night until her yelling and screaming, finally the villagers came to see what was going on, and they found her with her children in her arms, lifeless. As they approached and got close to her, she threw their bodies into the river and threw herself as well, denying and rejecting help, rope, and anybody who would try to help her. And she drowned alongside her children. After many days and many years have passed, she now wanders the rivers and the creeks and the small villages, crying and wailing, looking for her children, asking for forgiveness, pleading for another chance, for an opportunity to make it right. But she's also filled with rage, because not only does she want forgiveness, but she's also looking for her husband. So that is the story and the legend of La Llorona, the Wailing Woman. Okay, so now that we got the story of the legend of La Llorona, I remember growing up hearing that story, and it was scared the shit out of me. And the story would go that when she would wander the streets, yelling and screaming, you as a child were not supposed to open the windows and look outside and make eye contact with her, because if not, she would take you. And that stuck with me, because I heard those stories from my uncles in Central America, that they really did in fact see this woman, hear this woman. Now again, these are villages, right, in Central America, so they're not big cities like they are out here. You're talking about small little towns where there's maybe like one hospital. It's not even a hospital, it's a clinic. And they are basically each ranch, una finca, un rancho. They're basically maybe half a mile apart between one or the other. So there's long stretches of road that are completely unpaved, where people walk or they ride a horse. And you want to get home before the sun goes down, because there's no street lights. All you got is the moon. So you can imagine how scary that shit is, growing up in these places, hearing these stories. That shit will fuck with you. Now, a little bit of the legend, right? So, are there indigenous origins? Some say yeah. Some anthropologists believe that the story predates Spanish colonization. In Aztec mythology, she's named Kiwakatu, I believe, which basically is the snake woman. And in the story of the Aztec mythology, she is a maternal figure, sometimes associated with childbirth and sometimes with death. She was said to cry at night, mourning her children, which is basically the legend that we know. And the thing goes, too, also when the conquistadors was there around that time, they had told stories of a womanly spirit wandering lakes, crying for her children. And the Spanish conquistadors referenced this as a bad omen, and they associated her with death. And basically, if you saw her, you were more than likely going to die. But what's really funny, or like it's kind of strange, is like that after the Spanish arrive, the story shifts a little bit, and some versions suggest that she fell in love with a Spanish conquistador, and it's the story that we tell about now. So it's transitioned through time. So it does have historical references. It does have colonial influence on it. There is historical parallels to the indigenous woman who acted as Hernan Cortez's interpreter and bore him a child, which was one of the conquistadors. She's seen as a traitor to some people, to others a victim, because she was indigenous and she betrayed her own people to be an interpreter for him, and she basically kind of turned her back. But in various occasions in various places across Latin America. In Guatemala, she appears near rivers. This is how the stories change, right? She appears near the rivers, and Venezuela, she's set to target unfaithful men. So she's supposed, if you leave like a bar or whatever, she's gonna follow you, and if you see her for some reason, she knows you're up to no good, and you get taken away. So why does La Llorona make such an impact for Latin America? Well, for children, she bears a warning for kids that don't behave. So if your parents are telling you to go to sleep, your happy little bottom better not go to the window and try to see who's screaming outside. Your ass better go to bed and stay in bed. It's also a cautionary tale of love and betrayal, that you have to be mindful of who you have relationships with. If somebody bears you a child, there's just so many factors. It's basically, a lot of these legends, including this one, is basically dedicated to get you in line and keep you in line with what you're going to do. And you know but again, what do all these stories, why do they make such an impact on all of us? I mean, why do we need these stories? um the legend continues. There's a lot of stories like this one that have endured through time. But honestly, for me, I do believe it. I think that you can try to interpret this and rationalize it how you want to, whether it's a myth or not, it's a moral lesson, it's got some historical references, whatever it might be. There's a lesson in every single legend, but in this one in particular, for me, even though it sounds far-fetched, I believe it. So be mindful of, number one, who you hurt. If you're unable to sustain a relationship with somebody and you're doing it behind closed doors and doing all this shady stuff, it's going to come back and bite you. That's the moral lesson of it. But for children like my own, this is a story that they enjoy. They love it because it's tragic, but it teaches them a lesson as well. So it's got some moral messages to it. But I digress. That was La Llorona. I will more than likely do one of these every now and then about this story. There's going to be plenty more that I want to speak on. Some that are not going to be from America. Some is going to be from Latin America. Some are going to be maybe from Europe, like the Boogeyman, the Baba Yaga, some of the games that kids play, like Mary, 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 and some of these other things, and some of the messages that some of these stories are trying to say to our kids. But I digress. Today's episode hopefully intrigued y'all. If not, I'll go to episode 6. I'm going to speak on some other little topics that I've been kind of putting my notes on. And one of them is parenting advice, apart from the social media of it. Just some things that I want to bring to the table to you guys, things that have worked for me, and maybe it will work for you too. And I think it's a good place to start because not all of us have the answers. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're enjoying it yourself, understand that you don't have all the answers. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, you don't pretend to have the answers. But the moral of the story is that you'll never have the answers if you don't ask that you actually need help. If you're unable to do that, then I will be doing that for you. So please, if you want to bring something to light, if you want to have a topic or a conversation, I invite you to send me an email, like I said, and let's keep it interesting. Let's make things interesting. I appreciate every single one of you. Like I said, like, subscribe, share, enjoy. We are in all social media platforms now. We are in We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on Snapchat. We are on TikTok. We're on Spotify. And we're on YouTube. So wherever you are able to, click play, enjoy, sit back, enjoy your drive. God bless. And thank you so very much for listening.